Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new to my channel, a small introduction. I am Jade Vanriel and I talk about property, lifestyle and a bit of interiors as well quite a lot of interiors on my channel. And I'm the advocate of people buying a home young, buying a home alone and showing them that they can do it too. Today I am bringing you all things property and we're finally going to discuss help to buy and shared ownership, and I'm so excited because this is a topic that always comes up. Now I'm really happy to be working with Share to Buy on this video. They're essentially an online property search engine and they have properties specifically for first time buyers, and they have like over 3,500 or so different properties in London and in the home counties around London. The London Home Show coming up is going to be on the 21st of September, and I'll leave all the details down below for you guys. I'll also be attending because I love to learn about property, and essentially there's going to be loads in one room. You guys can ask all your questions, find out information, get some property brochures and start your property search from there. So anyway, let's talk about help to buy and shared ownership. So if this is something that you're interested in, something you want to learn more about, I highly recommend you continue watching this video and let's get into it. Okay, so what is shared ownership? Shared ownership is pretty much what it says it is. You are owning a share of a property. So it's a great alternative way to buying a property and getting your step onto the ladder. If you happen to want to live in a very expensive city like London, these are great ways of you starting your journey, getting onto the ladder and finally owning something. And essentially you will own a fraction of that property and you will pay a mortgage on that share that you own, and you will then pay subsidized rent on the rest of the property. So the share that you don't own, you're essentially renting and you're owning a piece of it. So you're owning a piece of the pie and renting the rest of the pie. This is a great alternative because if you are someone who has a really small deposit, you're not able to save a lot of money. With shared ownership, you don't need a huge deposit because essentially your deposit is only for the share that you're going to own, not a deposit for the full value or price of the property. So for example, let's say the property is £350,000 and you're going to buy a share, 25% share of that property. 25% of £350,000, such a chunk, right? That's going to work out to be £87,500, right? So your share is that's 25%. Your deposit is going to be 5% of that, not the 350,000. Your deposit will end up being 5% of the £87,500, which works out about, if my maths are correct, £4,375. It doesn't mean that you're only going to own 25% forever. You can actually staircase and you can start to earn more and more of the property, and that is all dependent on what you are able to afford. If you are in a position where you're there for a year and you feel like actually I can afford to take this up a notch, you're allowed to go up by 10% each time minimum, and you can in some cases end up owning 100% of the property, but it all depends on how much you can actually afford. So your rent will go lower and your mortgage payments will go higher, so that eventually hopefully you end up aiming to own 100%, and then that whole property is yours and you are free then to do as you please with it. Now a lot of the questions that I've been asked as well in the past is whether you're allowed to sell it and whether you're allowed to do home improvements and all of these things. Every single housing association is different. It all depends on what's in your contracts. But I know in most cases you need to acquire that permission because you don't own the full property, therefore you don't have the full rights to do what you want in the property. So you definitely will have to speak to your housing association or whoever you have bought this property from, see what you are able to do, but all of those things will be in your contract. And guys, you can ask all the questions in the world before entering into this. Now if you ever wanted to sell the property, let's say in a couple of years now you've decided you don't want to live there anymore and you want to move on, maybe you are now able to afford to buy a full property, or maybe you've seen another shared ownership property and you'd rather go and live there, the housing association will offer to sell the property on your behalf and they will sell your share. Usually they tend to have a list of people who have shown interest in the past in their area, the local area, etc., and they will be able to contact those people and see if they're still interested in purchasing the home, because a lot of these homes go so quickly. They often have about, I think it's around 6 weeks, but it does depend on who your property is with, and if they don't manage to sell it through that time, you're then allowed to go and put it on the market on a property search engine such as Share to Buy, who also do resale. So this is going to be a resale now. That person obviously has to fulfill certain requirements, be able to get the mortgage, etc., just like a normal purchase, but they also have to buy the same share that you currently have, i.e. 25% or more. They're not allowed to offer less than 25% of a share. So yes, you are allowed to sell the property, but there are certain processes before then. And if you are selling it, you will have to get it valued as you usually do with normal properties. It's a similar process. It's just that the whole share thing has to be exact or more. I hope that makes sense. So the process for actually buying a shared ownership property isn't usually very long. A lot of the time the property is already built, so you're not waiting for a property that's off plan that hasn't been built yet, which then takes however long it's going to take to build. In some cases it could be a year or 6 months, etc. But in terms of the actual admin and paperwork and all of that stuff, that is usually quite quick. It's only a few months because it's just gathering all of your paperwork, your credit checks, your mortgage offer. Overall, it shouldn't take you too long to buy the property, so don't worry about it taking long. But you should think hard about whether this is for you, whether you want to do this, and always have a plan. Like, I definitely recommend, if you're going into shared ownership, to have a plan, because essentially you're buying a share of it. So yes, you own a fraction of it, but you don't own the whole property. Maybe a 5-year plan, maybe a 3-year plan. In 5 years, do I want to own 100% of the property? Find out if you're able to get to 100%, number one, because some places you're not, but a lot of places you are. And also whether there are any time, you know, like limitations, whether it has to be after a certain amount of years, etc. Ask these questions because it varies depending on who the housing associations are. And remember, it's available on new build properties and also resale properties. So those properties, like that example where I've now owned it for a little while and I want to sell my share, that is a resale property. Help to Buy is only available on new build homes, and you can also find these properties on Share to Buy. They have got amazing properties, guys. Like, honestly, some of the ones I've shown you guys are even on that website. A lot of the time people use the two terms interchangeably, but they're actually very different. Help to Buy is actually a government-backed scheme, and it's essentially where the government offer you a equity loan to fill the gap between your 5% deposit and then the rest of the property is what you would have your mortgage on. So this loan can give buyers up to 20% of the property value in terms of a loan, and in London they give you up to 40%, which is huge. So if you are one of those people who are definitely buying a property in London and you have a smaller deposit but you really want to buy in London, check out Help to Buy, because you can get up to 40% in terms of help towards that home. So London and outside of London, you would be putting together a 5% deposit. Outside of London, what will be remaining is 75%. That's what your mortgage will be on, and in London it will be 55%, because of course they've given you that big chunk of a 40% loan, right? So the loan is interest free for the first 5 years. Please remember as well that after those 5 years you do then have interest on top of the annual fee of what you have borrowed from the government, and that is about 1.75%. so I highly recommend that within those 5 years, don't just relax and think that, oh, I've got it easy. You should probably be putting away some extra cash to the side so that when that 5-year mark does come, you have some kind of preparation for the extra payment that you will be paying on top. Because guys, nothing is free. Lovely for them to borrow you this money, but essentially when it comes to payback, you got to pay it back, right? So definitely use that 5-year gap to prepare for what is to come. Now again, the same with shared ownership, that is just my plan. I would definitely go into it with a plan, with a 5-year plan. I think it's great that it's 5 years. It's quite a good amount of time to get settled. I mean, I've been in my flat for 3 years now, and that has gone by very quickly. And remember, when you buy a Help to Buy property, you are not going to be stuck in it forever. There is no contract that says you are not allowed to sell this property ever, 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 ever. What you can do, which would be like a normal sell really, is just sell the property, and then whatever you own, if it is 20% out of London or 40% in London, you have to pay the government that back, basically, because it depends on the property value at the time. Property values go up and down, as you guys know. You will have a percentage that you would have borrowed, and that same percentage, if it was 20%, is what you will give back. If the property's gone up, you're giving back 20%. If the property's gone down, you're giving back 20%. So essentially, it's like with shared ownership, you're buying a percentage, and with Help to Buy, the government are putting a percentage in for you. So they kind of, in a way, own a percentage of your property when it comes to selling it. So I hope that that has explained the two differences, how you buy them, what they actually are, how much money goes into them, and also how to sell them, because they are actually very different. Although they both do the same thing, which is essentially trying to help first-time buyers and people who may not have a huge deposit, who may not earn the most money in the world, which is most of us, and it's essentially trying to help people get onto the property ladder. So I'm all for whatever we need to do to get on. And there is so much information on the Share to Buy website regarding who would be applicable for what the requirements are, and what the pluses are, and all of that stuff to help you really decide between the two. Because I always get questions about, you know, I'm a nurse, etc., I'm this, I'm that, I don't know which one to go by. It doesn't depend on what you do, it just depends on what you want out of it, what your plan is for the next few years. And I would also recommend you going and speaking with a financial advisor, a mortgage broker, your bank, just to find out all of this information so you can really tally up what will work best for you when it comes to buying your first home. If you are interested in Help to Buy or shared ownership, then you should definitely be making your way down to the London Home Show on the 21st of September. I'm also going to be there, and I would love to meet you guys there. There will be mortgage brokers there, estate agents there, there will be all sorts of different people, there will be talks and workshops, and it's just going to be a really informative day. And the event is free. All you need to do is go onto the website, I'll leave the link down below, and reserve your free ticket and come along. So I'll see you all very soon, hopefully, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.